Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, your sad Oklahoma recovery show. Welcome to it. It's Sunday. It's November 23rd, and Missouri lost to Oklahoma yesterday. Hurst, how you doing?
Doing all right. You know, it's hard to be too upset when you know exactly how the game's going to play out, and then it plays out exactly that same way. But at the same time, it doesn't make any. I guess it doesn't make it any less frustrating, but it does. No. It does make it harder to get like overly excited.
Yeah, I don't like being right in these situations. You know, you look at we talk about the game on paper versus the game that you actually see, and you go, oh, this sucks. I hope it doesn't go that way. And then it goes that way. I'm like, damn, don't like that. Don't like being right about that. But yeah, it played out basically exactly the way you thought it would. Both offenses stunk. Both defenses were excellent. Wasn't first to 20 who wins, but it was incredibly low scoring. And I was thinking, we as Missouri fans of the past 25 years, we have been on the wrong end of several different types of losses, and I can't quite figure out which one I dislike the most, because you can have a situation where a team is just shredding your defense, right? Touchdown, field goal, touchdown. Think the A&M game from last year, where you're like, it doesn't matter what we do, they're going to score. Like, it just takes the life out of you, and it sucks. And you're like, oh my God, we got another 40 minutes of this. And you're like, that's not going to fix anything. So there's that type of loss. But then you have the loss that we had yesterday, where it's a defensive thing, and you are just perpetually so close. Like, it takes one play to break, but you also know that play is not going to happen. And you're like, how can we be so close and yet so far away, and it's not going to happen? Like, both cases suck, but like, I'd almost rather you just put up 40 on me and put me out of my misery than just dangle it so close but like you still not get to it. I think that's the worst.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, the type of game that we just watched was by far the most painful, for sure. If you get blown out, you're like, oh, well, they were clearly the much more better team, the much more prepared team. And, our team didn't show up that day. And, sometimes that happens. But when it's make two plays away from a tie or winning a game, but it's just never there, and it's always about an inch farther than your arm can reach. It hurts. It hurts in a frustrating way. And this should be different than it is type of way. And it's that sucked. I mean, it was a couple guys make a couple plays, and it's a very different it could have been a very different outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the 87-yard touchdown pass. I feel like everyone kind of points to that, which, by the way, Chris McClellan was like that far away from swatting it down. But you know what's wild is that let's take away that touchdown, and let's ignore game situation, okay? But let's take away the touchdown, and let's give that field goal that got blocked. Missouri still loses 10-9. Like, there's still a massive gulf in Missouri able to beat Oklahoma, and even if a low scoring game, it was still not going to happen. Just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps. I mean, that would completely change how everything plays out. But
yeah,
let's say all else being equal, but they make a field goal and then they don't give up an 80-yard touchdown on 2 plays later, which is just exactly what happened against Vanderbilt 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter there on 4th and whatever, and they throw it, and that's one of the plays that could have been made. Kevin Coleman just can't bring in the catch in the end zone. Instead, maybe you're kicking another field goal there, and maybe you're feeling okay about it, and then you're looking to go up 12-10.
Oh my God!
Disgusting. So it's gross. Or take away a 25-yard punt from your own end zone. That, and maybe have just competent special teams across the board, and they're not scoring another, because they scored 2 touchdowns. One on an 80-yard touchdown, which is the only way Mizzou gives up touchdowns. Which the other way is just terrible special teams that set you up inside the 40. So. And even then that required a defense. Yeah, that's the other way, is they have a defensive penalty that extends the drive, which is what happened on that drive as well, with an offsides penalty on 3rd down. So, this was a Mizzou to a T game in terms of how it played out and how they lost.
Well, I always viewed this year as a bridge year, just because the offense was getting a hard reset, and you looked at the depth chart for the Central Arkansas game, and you saw half the roster was transfers, and most of those transfers were in their first year. Okay, like it's going to be rough, even in the transfer portal era, where you can just portal your way to victory. Like a lot of times, those portal players are better in year 2 than they were in year 1. Doesn't matter where they started. It has shown to be the case. Year 2 transfers are better than year 1 transfers. Okay, so that is what you're relying on your offense, and the defense, as we predicted, is going to be great because it was full of how many? A lot of transfers, but are they in their second year? Yeah, most of them are, except for David Wilson, who's just a freaking going to be in the NFL next year. So this was always going to be the case, and I think playing a really, really easy non-con and a pretty bad SEC team in your first 5 weeks gave us a false sense of hope that came crashing down when you started playing ranked teams and then going on the road. Okay, so I know there's a lot of frustration here. I know it felt like the playoff is getting ripped away from us because this coaching staff is, quote unquote, being out coached all the time. You can have bad days and still be a good coach. This was just not the team that was going to do that. And it's tough because we had an extended period of this season, thinking that it could, but it wasn't ever going to be that. So when you have these sorts of losses, it's even worse because you're like, how did I think this was a playoff team? And how do they look so incompetent? At least for me, it's been pretty consistent. And I'm not super pissed about that. Like I said, I'm more concerned about development and scheme. But I don't know. How do you feel at this point after this loss?
If they had taken the schedule and taken all the games and put them on pieces of paper and pulled them out of the hat in a different order, where Mizzou played Oklahoma and then Alabama and then Kansas and then South Carolina and then just a completely different order, and the team starts out 2-2 and then maybe has a little mid-season run and gets up to 6-2 and then drops another game to 6-3. I mean, you're feeling very different about how and you're like, oh, okay, 2-2, not great start. Get a nice rebound, get some momentum going in the middle of the season, but then drop another game and then you're looking at 7-4. You have the exact same record, but it plays out in a different way where you should ultimately feel the same about the team. I'd almost prefer it to be that way because then you have a little more positive, feel a little more positively about the direction of the program from this season at this point in the season than you would the way it did play out, where you get such a hot start. But yeah, I agree. And we said at the beginning of the year, 8-4. I mean, at least I marked 8-4 as a successful season, and that's very much on the table.
Yep.
Very, very much on the table. And if they do that and they go out and beat Arkansas in less than a week now, it will have to be considered a successful season based on the preseason expectations. Yep. That doesn't make it any more frustrating based on seeing, how close this team really is to taking the next step. They're very close to it, but they're not there, and it's kind of like it feels like a glass ceiling in some aspects. In terms of they're there, I don't know, with the way the roster is currently constructed, the way the scheme is currently run, what's the next step? I'm not sure if it's there for the way this specific team is, because I'm not sure. We've talked about a couple plays here or there that could have gone either way. Same with Alabama, same with so the other loss for the most part, maybe not Texas A&M. But some of the other the other loss that they have, but that's been consistent throughout. There's always a couple plays that could, unless they're getting blown out by Texas A&M twice and Alabama last year, unless they're getting blown out, which doesn't happen often. It's just right there, but they just can't get it, and it just gets really frustrating.
Yes, but I thought this was going to be a bridge year, and I did not think they were going to lose 2 quarterbacks in their kicker. That was a loud clash. I didn't think that was going to happen. And then it did happen. Okay, so this is a 1 quarterback team who has had to play their freshman third stringer. Okay, you have trotted out 2 kickers now, neither of whom are apparently quick in the process or accurate. We'll get on that in a couple minutes. And so a team that plays really excellent defense, runs the ball with a minor threat of passing, and relies on field position and field goals, is now doing that with a punter who was not punting at his last school and is now here, a freshman kicker who was not expected to kick, your freshman quarterback who was not expected to play because there's two upperclassmen in front of him, and yet you're still 3 points away from beating Alabama, 7 points away from being a top 10 Vanderbilt on the road. Yes, you got bushwhacked by Texas A&M. That was said freshman quarterback, third stringer's first start. Okay, nothing about this season is out of whack, and the fact that they were so close in some of those games, even yesterday, more than what I thought it was going to be, frankly. Okay, so I think yes, the losses hurt, but again, focus on how this program is developing. Okay, what's coming back? How are they getting better? What is it? Are they close? And I think they are close. And if you think there's a glass ceiling, that's fine. I don't think it's there from a coaching and player standpoint. I do think it's there from the investment standpoint, which is why Eli Drinkwitz has brought it up and why he is at least taking offers. Because it seems to me, if you look at the Drinkwitz era, he has either had a kick-ass offense or a kick-ass defense. And there is 1 year where he had both, and that was 2023, and a lot of those guys kind of came out of nowhere, especially his quarterback. But based off of his comments of we need to increase our funding, we're not as rich as you think we are, it kind of feels like they are either funding a defense or they are funding an offense, and then it just flip-flops to keep those pieces around. And so he wants a little bit more so he can get a little bit more, keep some of these pieces around, and then add so you don't have this seesaw effect. But they are close. And I don't want that to just be sunshine pumping in the face of a loss. I legitimately think they do, but they do need to settle this thing out, improve the scheme a little bit, and win some of these games.
Yeah, yes. To kind of address your point, so they are close, and I think that's what I have also said, and it almost makes it even more frustrating at how close they are. To the funding standpoint, could they always use more? They could use more funding. Yes, always. And every coach, even the highest level funded coaches, the Ohio States, are going to say, "Give us more money. Give me more money. Make my job easier." Yes. This team. I mean, you look at who they have brought in. It's in terms of how much money those players are costing. They brought in Bro Bula. I mean, we don't know exactly how much he brought, but that's $1.5 million is what is being reported. What that actually is, we don't know. But that's on top of Sam Horn already making money. That's on top of Matt Zoller's already making money. They brought in Kevin Coleman. I'm sure he wasn't just a cheap, goodwill to come home. They were paying him quite a bit as well. Keegan Trost, Dominic Jadis.
Those guys were bargain bin.
They were making money. All right.
Yes.
They're coming in making money. Were they the highest paid offensive lineman in the portal? No, but they cost money because they could have gone somewhere else that would also have paid them money. Ahmad Hardy, he's taken some money too.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So then on the defensive side, yes, they Damon Wilson, he was not going to be cheap. Jalen Catalon. So it's on both sides. They spent a good amount of money on both sides to bring in people. So I don't think it's an either or. Now, certainly, could they spend more? Could they have brought in another lineman or two that perhaps would have put this offense a little higher up over the end? Yes, they could have. But I don't think that's why this team is not getting over the hump. I think it comes down to, and this isn't play calling, this is a schematic thing that they're going to have to figure out in the passing game. That has been a problem really almost the entire time that Drinkwitz has been here, with the exception of maybe 2020. But even then, that was such a weird year. It's hard to tell what's going on. But 2023, they were a pretty good passing team, and I think that's because Luther Burden and Theo Weiss kind of shocked everybody, and the defenses had yet to adjust to how Kirby Moore and his slightly different scheme was going to play out in the SEC. They've adjusted. Nothing else has changed. The passing game is stale. It's stagnant. It's predictable. And they finished with 231 yards passing, and that's with OU's a good defense, yes, but that's with 150 yards in the fourth quarter when they literally stopped running the ball because they had to throw it. And Oklahoma got really soft because they're like, the one thing we can't do is give up an 80-yard touchdown pass. Not that Mizzou would ever do that anyway. So they just kind of let them matriculate down the field. Same with at the end of the first half as well. That's when the only time they actually got passing yards. The pass protection, really, considering the defense they were going with this past week, wasn't that bad. It really wasn't as horrible as it could have been. Bo Bula wasn't great. Credit to him for coming back and fighting back in an injury, but he didn't have a great game. Matt Zoller certainly wouldn't have been any better. And I think they're just being put at a disadvantage in terms of getting guys open. They've got receivers that I believe are good enough to compete well in a good passing offense in this league, but they're not getting schemed open. Once the times they are getting open, their quarterback's not able to find them the ball and get them the ball and deliver it to them accurately. So the whole thing kind of talked about needs to be reworked, and I don't think that necessarily means having to get a new offensive coordinator in, but they need to take a long look at how they do the passing game and how how it meshes with the running game, because the running game is good and it will be good. It has been good. It will be good. I'm not worried about the running game, but how they mix that in with the passing game, how their play action game works. They don't run any RPOs, which if you look at Oklahoma, they're not a great offense either. That's all they run is RPOs, and the plays that they hit that were really big, those are RPOs, and it puts the defender in a bind, both the linebacker and the safety in a bind as far as what they're supposed to do. And if you run it right, there's nothing that they're going to choose wrong every time. And they don't. Mizzou just has opted not to use those types of plays in their offense. And I think that's a big miss there. That's just one part of a potential improving the passing game, but it's one that they could easily incorporate this week if they wanted to.
Well, you're not installing an RPO if you don't have one yet. There's one game left in the regular season. This is a wish list item for next year. They do play action. They do old school play action like it's 1964. Right?
Very slow developing play action that once it's clear that it's a play action, you know exactly what routes the receivers are running because it's the only play action pass that they run.
It's only to the short side of the field. It's only to the right, and he's always going to throw it to Brett Norfleet unless you cover him, and then he's going to run it. It took me, it took us 6 weeks to figure that out? Yeah, we're a bunch of dummies who just watch it on TV. What do you think a defensive coordinator who's obsessed with finding tendencies and has been studying you for months in the offseason and all week, do you think they've probably figured that out? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'm going to go into this week. I broke down that first opening drive, the scripted drive, and why it works so well. He still has his nasty, binky tendencies of going to plays that are predictable, but when you call it in a cadence that makes sense and complements what you've been doing, it does work. It does work. Any play can work with any players or with any coordinator if you're calling it in the right way. But Moore just has this tendency to fall back on his binkies, and there's 4 of them, and it's the same issue that Drinkwitz had when he was play calling, where he just followed the same 5 plays and just run it, and they became overly predictable. Now, Greg McElroy on the broadcast brought this up, and I've rewound it a couple of times because I really wanted to listen to what he had to say, and then I saw it on Twitter, I think later last night. The passing concepts that Mizzou uses are not, I guess they're not sound, right? They don't make a lot of sense. They're not complementary, I think is what one guy said. And what that means is, okay, you have Kevin Coleman just run a fly route or a 9 route, whatever you want to call it, just straight down the field, right? A dagger maybe if you want to go in on the inside. Basically, he's running down the field as fast as he can and either keeps going or just a little to the right on the inside just to use speed and positioning to catch the pass, okay? What McElroy and this other guy were saying were that typically if you do that, you need to have a route that is sitting underneath it, either starting from the right and moving to the left or bunched on the left-hand side with them, where it's like a stop or, go and stop, turn around. What is that, a 5 or whatever? Like a seed route where it's a stop. And so the defensive backs have to choose, do I keep running with Kevin Coleman or do I cover this other guy here? And forces him to make a decision that decides for the quarterback which one he's going to throw to, the closer one or the one that's going down the field. And McElroy was saying they don't run that. They don't do that. They just have these unprotected daggers that go off. And so a defensive back just kind of floats back and can choose to maybe go up and try and hit Bo Prabula, who's not trying to run, or go after the pass. And that's how that interception happened. So you need levels to your passes. And there's 2 people who know football who said that that's not happening. And I don't know how you get to be an SEC coordinator and play this sport and not design plays like that. But apparently that's an issue. And I'd like to see that fixed.
Yeah, it's just a basic schematic disadvantage in terms of how they are operating the passing game, and that's why this offense the last 2 years has really stagnated out. This year also because you pointed it out already, a big turnover in guys, and yeah, there was going to be some steps back, but last year they had all the guys and they weren't very good either. This year's team actually runs the ball way better than last year's team did, even though they had the first round draft pick right tackle, and then another draft pick as a left tackle, and a very much more experienced quarterback than they have now running it, and two NFL wide receivers. They were bad then too. It's because defenses in this league have figured out this team, and the outside running play. If you're not physically capable of matching up with Mizzou defensively, they will gash you on that. So if Mizzou is playing a defense that can't defend that play, they will run the ball all over them and win the game. We saw that against Kansas. We saw that against Mississippi State. We saw that against South Carolina. Eventually, they wore them down. Pretty much any of those wins that Louisiana. I mean, any win that you look at that Mizzou won this season, they were able. The other defense was not able to physically match up with them on that stretch play. Their linebackers were not able to shoot the gaps with speed enough to get to the running back before he's able to find the open gap and go. But the teams that they've lost to have been able to do that. And that is the secret to beating this team. You will beat Mizzou if you don't turn the ball over too much or at all in this case, and if you can defend the outside zone running play. Oklahoma did it really well, especially after that first drive. Mizzou had a nice scripted drive, kind of kept them off balance a little bit. But then after that scripted drive, the script ran out. It was just same plays over and over again, bad passing plays, and grossness. Alabama defended the run really well, and then Mizzou kind of stopped doing it. Vanderbilt, same thing. Mizzou ran the ball okay against Vanderbilt. Ultimately couldn't get it, but not in a gashing form, and thus they ended up scoring 10 points. Same, Auburn might be the one exception to that whole rule where they could not run the ball, but Auburn was just Auburn and insisted on losing every game that they played. So hopefully Arkansas is going to be the same way. I have a feeling that they will be, because just having watched them a lot, they will not defend the stretch run, and so that probably means it's going to be a good day for Mizzou. But we'll talk about that one next week.
Yeah. I'm going back. Mizzou's rushing success rate against Alabama was 50%. They ran it 26 times, threw it 27 times. Auburn, their rushing success rate was 32%. So, yeah, that was not very good. Also, one of the best rush defense they went up against. Against Vanderbilt, rushing success was 42%. Ahmad Hardy almost went for 100, but not quite. Against A&M, 53% rushing success. That was the Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy going for 217, but not until it was too late. Mississippi State, 51% rushing success rate. And then, of course, Oklahoma yesterday, 29%. But, Brent Venables does this. He's been doing this since he was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. He needs one drive to figure out how you want to attack him, and then he's got it figured out. And then you need to do something different. And there's very few defense coordinators in this country that are able to do that, and he is one of them. And this coaching staff should have gone in knowing, okay, you can't do what we want to do, but we can try and do it anyway. Then what? And I don't think they either had a good answer or no answer. I don't know which one it is. But by the time you got to the fourth quarter, the answer was, we're going to run it one more time and then just throw it after running 10 plays in the third quarter. And I don't think that was the answer that you wanted. Also, the run wasn't working, so I get it. But they did not have an answer. And they don't have a counterpunch if you take away stretch zone. And that's a problem.
No, and I mean, but it's probably the most disappointing thing is the defense, once again, played more than well enough to win a game against a top 10 team.
Oklahoma's offense was worse than Missouri's offense yesterday.
Yes. Mizzou's defense played better than Oklahoma's defense did, if we're going to actually look at it. The problem is Mizzou got a field goal blocked, and then they gave up one big play.
Yep.
And Oklahoma did not give up one big play, and they got their field goal team to kick the field goal in a timely manner. And they got their punt team to punt the ball farther than I can punt the ball, and that's how they won the game. Special teams, big plays on defense, being able to do anything when you actually have the ball in scoring position. That's the difference between a top 10 team and where Mizzou is right now.
So I want to revisit special teams. We've already talked about this once this season. We're talking about it again. it feels like the buzz around Mizzou special teams is getting louder as the season goes on.
It's because it's impossible to ignore. You watch these
I
games and
understand.
it's impossible to ignore.
I understand. They whiffed on the punter. I said in his commitment piece, he was not punting last year at Stanford,
A bad team.
which is not a good team. He was not punting there. They took away punting responsibilities from him, and now he's here. So they whiffed on punter in the portal, which Eli Drinkwitz loves punters. I don't know how he messed that one up, but he did. Okay. Didn't have any budget left for it, so they took whatever they could get, however you want to do it. Then your field goal kicker gets injured on a freak play in the first game of the season. So now you're effed two different ways. One is your fault. The other is just the universe hates you. But again, you have Kevin Coleman, who has returned punts and kicks before, who has actually done the best job of any Drinkwitz returner, and still it's averaging like 4 yards per return. Okay? Demarion Fox is now injured, but even then, most kicks are going out of the end zone anyway. And then on punt returns and stuff like that, I mean, you're just not getting enough distance. Not enough height, not enough hang time, not enough distance to make this worthwhile. So I don't want to point the finger at the players. That's crappy. Coaches have responsibility too. And I also understand, because I went through this, Missouri special teams has regressed every year since 2021. I understand that. But is this really a situation where it's like, hey, Eric Link, need you to go find something else to do. Bring in somebody else. I mean, who else are you going to get, and is it going to get any better?
Well, I mean, it can't get a whole lot worse. So, I mean, if you're looking at things that, on the margins, which is a lot of where this team is failing against these top teams, that's something that you could consider heavily. And does that mean he needs to lose his job and not be at Mizzou anymore? I don't necessarily think that's the case. There are lots of positions these days that you can have on a coaching staff. But whatever they're doing now isn't working. And I think that's both on a, yes, their kicker got hurt. This is not they missed a lot of field goals rant or discussion. That happens. Even good college kickers miss a lot of field goals because they're college kickers. But when you have guys that can't kick the ball in a timely fashion, and that's why you almost got it blocked the first time, it definitely got it blocked the second time. And even when they brought in the other guy to kick it, they still decided they weren't going to block the guy that's been running unencumbered and blocked and nearly blocked another one. They still didn't block him on that third field goal that they did make. They got it off it, a little just in time, fast enough to do that. That's what the issue is those lack of adjustments, or not getting any, even 5-8 yards on a punt return. That's half of a first down that this struggling offense could really use, and they're not getting that because they can't block for it. Punting the ball out of your end zone, you need to get the ball past the 40-yard line. You just have to do that because you can't set your defense up already with the other team in scoring position. They couldn't get that done. And that really, I mean, those margins are what cost you a game like this, or against a Vanderbilt, or against an Alabama. I don't think it necessarily cost them in Alabama, but that's how close the margins are across the SEC these days. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to be super detail oriented on these things if you're going to take that next step. Yes, they could, if they threw for 500 yards a game, that probably would make them so good that they wouldn't need to focus on that, but that's not where they are. That's not where they're going to be. So what else can they do to get them over that hump? This is an obvious one, and I think that's why it's frustrated a lot of Mizzou fans lately, for sure. Is because it's something that should be, you would think, something that's fixable. It is fixable.
Yeah, I don't remember how many times Missouri's had a field goal blocked since 2020. I don't know if that's
not a ton,
stat.
Not a lot, maybe 2 or 3.
Point is, I don't think it happens all that often. It happened here, but I don't think it happens all that often. If we have a punter who averages, 48 yards per punt instead of 41, are we still pissed about special teams? Like, is it really just get a better punter? I'm trying to figure out that's really the main issue here, because
yeah, it's not one single fix. It's not this one guy is going to make it better. It's not Blake Craig not being injured is going to make the special teams unit as a whole better. That's one piece of it. But it's a combination of the personnel and how they are deployed. The punt return unit, covering that. That's been okay. They've had lots of penalties on kick off returns when they actually can return it. Lots of penalties on punt returns when they can actually return it. So that's something that can be fixed as well. So it's more than just coaching. It's also personnel, but it's more than just personnel. It's also coaching. I mean, but it's something that it doesn't really seem like Eli Drinkwitz puts a whole lot of effort and intensity in during practice in terms of getting this whole unit up as best as it could possibly be. And maybe it's not worth it, but it sure looks like it could be, because we talked about 10 points right there, that they flip the game in this game now, and then you kick a field goal instead of going for it on a very tough fourth down. You're looking at all things else being the same, a 12-10 victory, yay Mizzou. So, because when you've got a defense as dominant as this defense is, it doesn't take that puts you in position to win games as long as you're winning things on the margins. Unfortunately, they're not able to do that.
I mean, I do the little things report card on purpose. I know that it's important, and I know that there have been some issues, but okay, the field position disparity between Texas A&M, minus 15. Okay, they were at Texas A&M started on average on their 38, Missouri on their 23. Okay, against Vanderbilt, Missouri's actually in an advantage, plus 11 in field position. Now they missed a field goal, but okay. Against Auburn, they were plus 9 in average field position. Against Alabama, they were minus 8. Against Oklahoma, they were minus 6. So there's not a solid 3-point here between if they have worse starting average field position, then that means they lose. They were not exactly at that point, but I understand what you're saying. It feels like that's the problem. And truthfully, if you look at their SP Plus ratings, they're 106th in field goal value per kick. Okay, not good. Punt efficiency, they're 80th. Kickoff efficiency, they're 102nd. Punt return efficiency, 83rd. Kick return efficiency, 87th. These are all bad. You missed 2 extra points this year. You've missed 1 field goal over 40 plus. You missed 3 field goals under 40. Your returns on punting, your return percentage is 15.4% per punt. Net yards of 39. That's not good. Okay, I understand that. Kickoffs, 41% of them are touchbacks. You're starting the average field position at 24.1. So the kickoffs are doing what they need to do. The returns, Kevin Coleman's got 14 punt returns for 8.7 yards per average. I did not know that. Wow. And then on kickoffs, Demarion Folks has returned 7 for basically it puts him at the 26 point, call it the 27-yard line. So it feels like it's just the punter. And I don't know what goes into these efficiency ratings or anything like that. But I just, plus 8 on your net yards, I feel like would do all the difference that you're looking for. And frankly, that's what Drinkwitz talks about when it comes to special teams. Yes, the kicking, but he will spend an entire 20 minutes in summer camp talking about punter battles because he knows it's important. He just didn't have a guy. And if he had a guy, would that be it? We're going in circles, and I know I'm just speaking in the void, but I don't know. It feels like that's really the only issue.
No, it is a big one for sure. And, I think my biggest point with special teams is that the margin for error in the SEC at this age and where Mizzou is and where they want to be, the margin of error is so small. It's literally 8 yards a punt. And that when you look at football as a whole, that's such a small thing to worry about. But 8 yards of field position in this league at the competitive level that Mizzou currently is, that's a big deal. That can make a really big difference. And it kind of sounds silly if you're just looking at it from the outside in, but when you're down in it and you're playing 17-6 games against Oklahoma, 17-10 against Vanderbilt, 27-24 against Alabama. I mean, it's that. That is where it is between where you're looking at 10-1 and 7-4.
Yep. Get a better punter. Win 2 games.
Get a better punter and figure out how to throw the ball at all. And you're going to be looking pretty good. Because then you could throw the ball at all against an Oklahoma. If they have to respect the pass at all, I guarantee you Ahmad Hardy has more than 3.4 yards per carry. He might have 4.1 yards per carry, and that is a huge difference in how the efficiency and how this offense is able to run.
Yeah. I'm going to do a separate piece in addition to BTBS this week, talking about that first drive. And I think one of the things that really worked well, and it goes back to what we've talked about before, they would call passes on first down.
Yep. Run on second down, throw it on first down.
Yeah. Pass in running situations, run in passing situations, and it worked to the point that for their first 3 first downs, they ran a pass. And in the 4th first down, when they ran, dude, Oklahoma bit on the pass. They bit on it. And that's what worked. But then you look at the rest of the game, and then you only really called 7 other passes on first down for the rest of the game. 7. 3 on your first drive, 7 on all the others.
And probably 6 of those were easily on the 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, and the last 2 drives that they had that they were trying to throw. That's probably all 6, if not all 7, if not just 6.
He gets tight, and he starts going, oh well, we got to run the ball, or else we're not gonna be able to keep up with the chains. And at this point, he's either not listening to Eli when he tells him, hey, let's do something different, or Eli's not telling him to do something different. I don't know what the answer is. They both come from that same Boise tree. Maybe the Chris Peterson Boise, axiom is when all else fails, run the ball, unless you're down by 11 in the 4th quarter, and then only throw the ball. I don't know. It's so curious to see that they can do these things, and then as it gets tough, they stop doing them. Yeah. I don't know what the disconnect is.
Very frustrating, and that's also where a simple RPO in your offense would make a big difference. Then you can't be wrong. If it makes sense to throw, if you can throw the ball, if you've got the numbers in the box for that on first down, you throw the ball. If they've backed up and you've got the numbers in the box to run the ball, you hand it off instead, and you give the option there, and then you can't be wrong. Or if it's executed properly, you're not going to be wrong, and then you're either running the ball for 5 yards on first down, hooray, or you're throwing it for 8 yards on first down, hooray, and that sounds awesome. But that's just not something that they have chosen to employ. And I promise you, it is legal. They are allowed to do that.
Yeah. Something for them to work on the offseason. I do feel bad that Bo Pribula defied all health science logic and came back for this.
Props to him. Props to him for that. I mean,
yes.
I hurt my back in July, and I tweaked it getting out of bed, and I'm still not right.
Yeah.
And he dislocated his ankle 4 weeks ago, and he's running and getting slammed by very large men over and over again.
Yeah.
So props to him.
It sucks that that's what happened. I will believe, until proven wrong, that they're sacrificing Bo Pribula's life and limb to keep Matt Zollers healthy enough to compete next year. Because if you threw little baby Matt out there,
mentally healthy or something, if not physically, mentally healthy. Yeah,
I mean both, but also mostly mental.
Yeah. I mean, they already threw him to the wolves against Texas A&M's pass rush. Oklahoma's is probably better in terms of its overall defensive ability. I mean, and Pribula has reason to want to be out there too, other than just beyond fighting for his team. He wants to. This is his job. He wants to keep his job, and if he doesn't keep his job here, he wants to show that he can play somewhere else. So, in a perfect world, he does keep it. He wins his job and stays here and is the quarterback next year as a better version of himself. I think that's probably the best situation. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to end up the case or not. We'll see what happens. But
you're in a situation where your best quarterback is not a very good passer, and your best passer can't read an SEC defense at SEC speed. That's where you're at. So here we are. And again, I'm not mad about the loss. It always sucks to watch your team lose. I want for the rest of the season, I want to just see we can be creative. We can do things that are going to benefit this team, put them in good positions to win. I don't feel like I'm seeing it yet. And so that's where my frustration comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see that next week because we've seen 6 years of Eli Drinkwitz offense and 3 years of Kirby Moore offense. They're basically the same thing, and it's been it looks exactly the same as it did 3 years ago, and really 5 years ago. Maybe slightly different, but basically the same.
But hey, another year in the system. Maybe you can introduce some new concepts, or maybe you just get really good at the concepts that you have. I don't know. Next year's a new thing, man. Who knows?
Oh yeah. The problem is that the one thing that getting better at the same concept would work for is the outside zone game, and they're already really good at that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they have to get better at the other things, and getting better at those things. No matter how good you are, if a defense like Oklahoma knows what you're going to do, you're not going to be good at it. Now, Mississippi State, Arkansas, you can be good, get better at something, and you can, destroy those defenses, and that's a great way to go 8-4 every year. Mm-hmm. And hey, we're Mizzou 8-4. Let's be happy with that. There's more than that out there for the way that this team is constructed. I think there's more than 8-4 on the table, but they're gonna have to do something different and new and innovative that they just haven't done yet.
Yeah. And just be careful. Don't get too comfy with, well, we can be better, right? I don't. There's nothing wrong with wanting to see more. There's a problem with actionable. We want to see more, and I don't know where you're gonna get it. Like, certainly not in this coaching carousel, and I don't really see. We don't have those trees anymore where you can just pluck from a Saban tree or pluck from a Meyer tree and, hope for the best. We don't really have that anymore. So I don't know. You got to really roll the dice with this. And I don't. Turning your nose up at 8-4 as a down year is a dangerous place to be. You can ask Minnesota, you can ask Kansas, you can ask Texas Tech, you can ask Auburn, you can ask a lot of different programs who thought they were too good for that and then made a change and got worse. So just let's ride out this season. Let's see how it goes next year. That's all.
When I'm talking about making change, the change is in how they operate. It's not a change at the top end. The reason that they are at a point where they can take the next step is because of the foundation that Eli Drinkwitz has built.
Yeah,
and that's what he's done such a great job at, is building a foundation, building a program, building a culture. Building alignment with the donor base and the state government. That all goes away if he chooses to leave, or if down the road he were to leave, that goes away, and there's no guarantee that someone else can come in and do as good a job or better. Mm-hmm. The challenge now is you built this, you've gotten to this baseline, which is for a Mizzou a very high base, a very high floor. He's brought in a floor to this program that previously did not really exist. If we're talking about an 8-4 as the floor, that's great. Mm-hmm. How do we push that to a floor of 9-3? How do we keep that at 8-4, but have a season where we're 10-2, 11-1 in the playoff era? We had a 10-2 in the non-playoff era, unfortunately.
Yep.
How do we get over that hump, especially now that the SEC schedule gets way, way harder? Mm-hmm. Way, way harder.
Yeah, guess who we get to see every year? Oklahoma.
We get Oklahoma every year. Texas A&M every year.
Yep.
They're now playing in Baton Rouge once every 4 years. They played there once in 13 years. Mm-hmm. They're now playing, once, and then LSU back here. They're playing at Auburn, which was really tough. They won this time, once every 4 years. They're playing in Austin. They're playing at Alabama, at Georgia.
Yep.
All those programs they're going to see every other year, and they're going to see at their place once every 4 years. It's going to be way harder.
It is. But that's a future problem for future Nathan. Those guys are dicks. So we're going to let them figure it out. And for now, that's going to be the show for tonight. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or you can rate us. We love feedback from all of you guys. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate Edwards. He's at Burst of Hearst. And of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcast and outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.